Sean Hannity, Tucker and Matt Gaetz, Sean Hannity is the soft, cushy landing for, I'm going to have to grab some of those water drinking gifts later. Sean Hannity is providing a soft landing for Mark Meadows. This is Mark Meadows' response to Jan 6 committee criminal referral.
Committee, we've been telling you this is a waste of your time and money. They have a predetermined outcome.
Yeah, Benghazi wasn't, though. It's a lot longer, a lot more expensive. Went over the same shit several times. Tell you what, when we get to the 7th January 6th committee, then talk to me.
And by the way, it lacks any serious investigation. And breaking tonight, the committee...
And any serious investigation? Well, I mean, technically, it's not like they have to roam around like Inspector Clouseau. Mark Meadows handed over 8,000 pages of documents.
To send a criminal contempt of Congress resolution to the House for former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, for failing to comply with the
who is now living his best life.
Subpoena documents he says are protected by executive privilege. That would need to be played out.
Why would they be protected by executive privilege? Motherfucker, he already handed over the documents. Talk to your guests before you bring them on. I play these clips just to, flex my wit because I know what you're going to say before you say it. So I don't have to prep. You should do some prep. You make $30 million a year on this fucking show, Sean. Do some work.
Courts. We're now learning about an email from the former chief of staff that said the National Guard was on standby to protect, quote, pro-Trump people. And don't forget, President Trump requested.
By the way, didn't you just say there was no real investigation? Oh, that's why you didn't say this part. I see. Email indicated guard on standby to protect, quote, pro-Trump people. And you didn't say investigators say, even though those words are on there. So your staff is just fucking with you now? Is that what's happening?
National Guard support in the days leading up
By the way, congratulations on having a head like a thumb and a haircut from our gang.
To January 6th. The request was rejected by Pelosi, by congressional leaders, including requests, by the way.
Not true.
From the Capitol Police Chief. Here with reaction, author of, it's in bookstores everywhere, Amazon.com, Hannity.com. I read the book cover to cover. It's worth, you got to get a copy. It's an insider.
Yes. See, I thought this was a dummy cover. I thought when this first came out, I was like, okay, this has to be the temporary cover. It has to be. What is that? What is Mark Meadows doing behind Trump right there?
River.
Honest to God, it doesn't look consensual, whatever it is.
River.
Look, that's
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
This has got to be.
Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
I'm sorry. That's just too much. Look at his face. Look at it like this misery. Trump looks like he's leaning for. Mark was a great chief of staff, as good as it gets. We will have a big future together. Not anymore, asshole. The chief's chief, Mark Meadows, former chief of staff to President Donald J. Trump. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm so used to the sycophant crowd around Trump. For the longest time, I just kind of assumed that the chief's chief was about this chief. The commander-in-chief was the greatest chief that the chief has ever had, and he's the chief of chiefs. But no, this is a Mark Meadows puff book, where that's him. The chief's. This is the chief. This is Trump. The chief's chief, which is bigger text, is Mark Meadows in this. Oh, this is good. They got a big future together.
That actually is fair to Donald Trump. What a rarity. The Chief's chief, Mark Meadows.
Yes, Trump hates this book because he thinks it makes him look weak. Perhaps you have a point, Sean. Perhaps it is fair.
First, I guess I'll get your reaction to the January 6 vote 9-0 to now go before the House. But we already know this is a predetermined outcome. Didn't we learn that when they kicked Jim Jordan and Jim Banks off the committee?
They didn't. Who the fuck is they, Sean? McCarthy pulled them.
Well, we did. Obviously, it's disappointing, but not surprising. And let's be clear about
disappointing, but not surprising. That's the second book from Mark Meadows about the Trump presidency.
Sean, this is not about me holding me in contempt. It's not even about making the Capitol safer. We see that by some of the selective leaks that are going on right now. This is about Donald Trump and about actually going after him once again, continuing to go after Donald Trump and
for orchestrating the January 6th insurrection and sending his people to the White House, to the Capitol, where they stormed in, beat cops, blinded one.
When we look at the real results of this investigation, it is not really, the foundation is not based on a legislative purpose.
The foundation is not based on a legislative purpose. No, fucko. It's based on a criminal referral purpose. It's because you were involved in a crime. We don't need legislation to make what you did a crime. It was a crime already.
Look at the interpretation of this biased committee, Liz Cheney and company. I love how Liz has now partnered with the people that called her father a war criminal, a murderer, and a crook. Pretty amazing.
She's partnering with Trump right now?
And I'm looking at this committee, and they're acting as though somehow it's nefarious. You have massive crowds coming to Washington. We just came out of the summer of 2020. Now, they're not investigating the 500 riots that killed dozens of Americans, hurt.
Well, yeah, they are. But they're doing it either locally or the FBI is doing it where people have crossed state lines to go to these riots and they are arresting them. If you go to the FBI's website, there's a bunch of people they've caught and a bunch of people they're looking for. Now, Sean hasn't reported on any of this shit because he needs you to think that, you know, they just let people burn shit to the ground and support and applauded it the whole time. Look, they burned 9 targets. We can't burn one U.S. Capitol? What the fuck?
Thousands of cops, caused billions in property damage. Liz Cheney and company have no interest in those riots.
No, they don't. They don't. Is that why they shut down? That's why they're trying to get the FBI shut down? Oh, wait, that's you.
Them all equally on this program. But what I want to know is, you know, as if it's a bad thing after coming out of the summer of 2020 saying, OK, there might be troublemakers here. We need to protect the Capitol. You asked for it before the
troublemakers. Troublemakers. That's the issue I think most of us have is that, you know,
we've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
That's right. Why, you know,
rally on January 6th. The president asked for it. The Capitol Police Chief asked for it. And we now have reports of whistleblowers telling us as National Guard members, they were told to stand down when they wanted to go in and stop the trouble. I don't hear them talking about that part.
Well, they are dealing with that part. But they are also dealing with this fuckhead and your texts.
Well, listen, they want to talk about the part that fits their narrative. And what we do know.
What we do know is that Michael Flynn was in charge. Michael Flynn's brother was in charge of it at the time.
And one of the things that is coming out more and more clearly each and every day is that everyone condemned what happened in terms of the breach of the security on the Capitol on January 6th. But what we also know is that President Trump wanted to make sure that the people that came
it was the breach of security that was the problem. You know what I mean? It made the cops that were nearly tased to death feel insecure. You know what I mean? They're all having sort of, it's made all the police in the area codependent now.
was a safe environment for that kind of assembly, and I've said that publicly before. The 10,000 National Guard troops, that he wanted to make sure that everything was safe and secure, and yet the way that some of
and yet your text said protect pro-Trump people, which you believed and Trump believed that sending the National Guard would actually bring troops that were loyal to the president to the Capitol that day and help in the insurrection.
Democrats are spinning this, trying to spin some nefarious purpose. I think at the end of the day,
let's see. Meadows, pro-Trump people. By the way, this is what they're referencing. Close. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, whoops, I'm going to stretch this out a little bit, sent a message of reassurance the day before a riot at the Capitol about the protection the National Guard would offer for some individuals on January 6th. Meadows wrote in an email that the National Guard would, quote, protect pro-Trump people, according to the White House committee. The House committee investigating the insurrection, and others would be available on standby. The message was among the documents Meadows shared with the committee. Oh, he shared them. Sean, I thought they weren't. Why would he share? They were protected by part of a trove of new information contained in a 51-page report the committee released Sunday as they're prepared to vote on the. Good stuff. A week after Mr. Meadows failed to appear for his deposition and 2 weeks after his deadline to produce documents, Mr. Meadows re-engaged with the Select Committee by letter. Hold on. Let me... stretch this out or something. There we go. Through counsel, Mr. Meadows agreed Mr. Meadows would produce a large number of responsive documents that were not subject to any claim of privilege, while withholding many others. But the day before his deposition, Mr. Meadows changed course once more and told the Select Committee he would not be attending his deposition after all, even to answer questions about the documents that he agrees are relevant and non-privileged that he had just produced. He did this even though the very same day his book was released, in which he recounts specific conversations that he had with former President Trump, including conversations about whether the former president planned to join in march to the United States Capitol on January 6th after encouraging rally-goers to do so. On December 8th, 2021, Mr. Meadows failed to appear for his deposition. Although Mr. Meadows' counsel has referred claims of testimonial immunity and executive privilege purportedly relayed by Mr. Trump's counsel, no such claims have been presented by Mr. Trump to the Select Committee. So he's asking for privilege Trump hasn't asked for. We've dealt with this shit before. Same thing happened during the Mueller investigation. These guys are all claiming executive privilege for him.
They're going to find that not only did the president act, but he acted quickly and in
quickly in the timescape of, compared to how long it took for the Earth to cool and the first forms of life to appear on
doing all of that. It's important, with this contempt vote that's coming up tomorrow, there's a very high probability that they will refer me for criminal contempt to DOJ. But
what will you do? What will you do? What will you do?
Yeah, what will you do? What will you do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you doing,
Congressman?
Well, I mean, at this point, Sean, it'll be turned over to the hands of DOJ. I can say this, that when you look at the criminal component of this, the intent, there's never been an intent on my part. I've tried to
yeah, I've never intended to break the law. I'm just doing it.
Non-privileged information, but truly the executive privilege that Donald Trump has claimed is his to waive. It's not mine to waive. It's not.
No, it is not his to waive. It is the White House's to waive, because the former president cannot dictate what the current president can release as far as documents. The former presidents do not have more control over the processes of our government than current ones do, especially ones who fucking lost.
Is to weigh, and that's why we filed the lawsuit to hopefully get the courts to weigh in. Hopefully they'll weigh in.
Well, before
they'll weigh in. They'll put a big lead thumb right on your scale and have fun. What do you think he's going to get? 10 days, and then he'll go, all right, I'll talk.
did this to Steve Bannon, the last time they had done this, hold somebody in contempt of Congress, was 1983. President, I noticed they haven't been focused on President Trump's actual words at the rally that day.
Well, yeah, because he told him to walk down there peacefully and patriotically, but that wasn't what he was expecting as far as behavior when he went down there. And he organized a rally and didn't know that the rally goers actually had a gallows with them.
You will now peacefully and patriotically march to the Capitol so your voices...
He also, by the way, he also said, and I'm going to go down there with you, which he did not do.
May be heard. I didn't hear...
And then what did he say? What did he say after that, Sean?
Any of that, Congressman. Many of you will march peacefully and not peacefully and not patriotically and invade the Capitol. Now, the fact that they are ignoring your request, they're ignoring the president's request, they're ignoring the Capitol Police chief's request earlier for support from the National Guard, which is especially after the summer of 2020, that's just good common sense. That's smart policing. That's for the protection of everybody.
Well, you're exactly right, and obviously, obviously having those National Guards available, actually, the reason they were able to respond
available.
And they did was because President Trump had actually put them on alert. But I would also want to comment
on alert. Hey, in case we aren't successful with our coup, can you guys give us some backup?
One other thing, if we look at senior officials, chiefs of staff, and those senior to the President of the United States, compelling them to come in and testify, and what we're seeing now, there's lots of
there's lots of fucking stammering going on as you guys both dodge your part in this bullshit. Also, notice what's completely missing from this entire conversation. The mention of it was really Antifa and BLM supporters.
Prudence and at least legal opinions and law that would suggest that that's not something that should be in the purview of Congress. So hopefully the courts.
Well, I got a question.
It isn't. It's in the purview of the administration, and they have waived his I guess Trump's beliefs that he has executive privilege claims in this circumstance, because murder and treason and attacking our government from the inside is not one of those things covered by executive privilege.
You know, I said that day, and I said it now, and I mean it. We're a country of law and order. We have to be. Now, with that said, I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to know why the guard was told to stand down. One, I want to know why you.
Yes, it was a total Benghazi moment. Let's see. Was the guard told to stand down on Jan 6? Let's see if there's anything in here. Absolute liars. Ex-DC guard officially says generals lied to Congress about the 36th Amendment. Colonel Adler slams Pentagon's Inspector General for what he calls an error-ridden report. Former DC National Guard is accusing two senior Army men lying to Congress to participate in a secret attempt to rewrite the history of the military response to Capitol. In 36-page memo, Colonel Earl Matthews, who held high-level National Security Council and Pentagon roles, during the Trump administration, slams the Pentagon's Inspector General for what he calls an error-ridden report, riddled report that protects a top Army official who argued against sending the National Guard to the Capitol on Jan 6, delaying the insurrection response for hours. Matthews' memo, sent to the Jan 6 Select Committee this month and obtained by Politico, includes detailed recollections of the insurrection's response as it calls two Army generals, General Charles Flynn, Mike Flynn's brother, who served as Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations on January 6th, and Lieutenant General Walter Pyatt, the Director of Army Staff, absolute and unmitigated liars for their characterization of the events that day. Matthews has never publicly discussed the chaos of the Capitol siege on January 6th. Matthews serving as the top attorney to General William Walker, then commanding general of the D.C. National Guard. Matthews' memo defends the Capitol attack response by Walker, who now serves as House Sergeant at Arms, amplifying Walker's previous congressional testimony about the hours-long delay in the military's order for the National Guard. Every leader in the D.C. Guard wanted to respond and knew they could respond to the riot at the seat of government before they were given clearance to do so on January 6th. Matthews' memo reads instead, he said, the D.C. Guard officials stunned, watching in the armory during the first hours of the attack on Congress during its certification of the 2020 election results. Matthews' memo levels major accusations that Flynn and Pyatt lied to Congress about their response to the pleas for the D.C. Guard to quickly be deployed on January 6th, that the Pentagon Inspector General's November report on Army leadership response to the attack was replete with factual inaccuracies, and the Army has created its own closely held revisionist document about the Capitol riot that's not worthy of the best Stalinist or North Korean propagandist. Walker told about let's see if they can find the comment. Former of the D.C. Guard, blah, blah, blah. New memo from Matthews, who now serves in the Army Reserves, emergency officials involved in the response that day try to explain their decision-making to investigators. House Select Committee has probed the attack for months. Earlier this year, top officials testified before the House Oversight Committee. Reached for comment. Matthews said the memo he wrote was entirely accurate. Our Army has never failed us and did not do so on January 6, 2021. However, occasionally some of our Army leaders have failed us, and they did so on January 6th. Then they lied about it, tried to cover it up. They tried to smear a good man and erase history. Flynn, now the commanding general of the U.S. Army Pacific, and Pyatt didn't respond to messages. Army spokesperson Mike Brady said in a statement, actions on January 6th have been well documented and reported on, and that General Flynn and Pyatt have been open, honest, and thorough in their sworn testimony with Congress and DOD investigators. The Inspector General concluded actions taken were appropriate, supported by requirements consistent with the DOD's rules and responsibilities for DSEA, and compliant with laws, regulations, blah, blah, blah. That's the spokesperson. Matthews' memo begins by focusing on a 2:30 p.m. conference call on January 6th that included senior military and law enforcement officials, himself and Walker among them. Then Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund pleaded on the call for immediate deployment of the National Guard to the Capitol. Matthews recalled saying the rioters had breached the building's perimeter. Walker also told Congress that Sund made that plea then, according to Matthews, Flynn and Pyatt both opposed the move. At the time, Pyatt was the director of Army Staff, one of the top generals in the Pentagon, and Flynn was the Army Director of Operations. The two men were the highest-ranking Army officials who spoke on the 2:30 call, according to Matthews. Lieutenant General Pyatt said that it would not be in his best military advice to recommend the Secretary of the Army that the D.C. National Guard be allowed to deploy to the Capitol at that time. Matthews wrote, adding, Pyatt and Flynn stated that the optics of having uniformed military personnel deployed to the U.S. Capitol would not be good because all the other optics from that day were so good. I just want to see what happened. Hold on. Oops. This is silliness. There we go.
Request, why President Trump's request for the Guard, knowing what happened in the summer of 2020, was denied. And I would like an answer to why we had 500 riots in the summer of 2020, dozens of Americans dead, thousands of cops injured, billions of dollars in property damage, arson, and looting. Where's that?
And why is the Congress not working on that, like law enforcement and state prosecutors are doing, which is what they're doing? And why are they focusing on the destruction of our democracy, at the attempted destruction of democracy at the hands of your favorite president and his lackeys?
Congressman, I'd like to see that committee.
Well, yeah, that committee is not there. And obviously there's a political narrative that really focuses on Donald Trump as the 45th president.
As the president at the time of the worst attack on our Capitol since the Civil War, or the War of 1812.
United States, and sadly, when we look at what is to be accomplished, I'm not sure that this committee is set up to do that.
All right, we appreciate it, and thanks for being with us. We're going to watch this very closely. Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Yes, you are, because you're part of it, asshole.